Good evening and welcome to our priority and goals for 2023, which we go through with each department head. And tonight we're pleased to have both Director of Development, Kerri Ivers here, and our Director of Engineering and Planning, which is Mark Valentine. So tonight they will be giving us their goals and priorities for 2023. So I don't know, take it away. I don't know who would like to start here.
I'll start since Mark volunteered me.
Thanks.
So the goals and priorities for 2023 remain largely the same as they were for 2022. You'll see that if you'll see there's a lot of recurring themes. So the first on the list, and these are really in no order of importance or operation. I'm following the model I had from last year, to be honest with you. So one of the primary functions for my position is to serve as the business development resource to commercial property owners, business operators, and developers. I serve as the liaison to the Penfield Business Chamber, and that's been a really great experience this past year. I serve as a conduit between new incoming businesses, alert the business chamber when we have new folks coming in, new businesses. I connect with the building and zoning department, because not every new application for new businesses comes through planning or developmental services. Sometimes new businesses are coming in through the zoning board or just through administrative processes through the building department. So that I try to serve as sort of the point of contact at the town so that new businesses can have outreach with the business chamber. And that's been a really great thing. And I've just attended the annual award ceremony for the Penfield Business Chamber, and several folks are saying that it's been really great partnership this year and as in all years with Penfield. And they're just pleased to see that continue through me after filling Jim Costello's very well-grounded shoes.
Well,
so
you're doing a fine job.
Yes.
Doing that.
The other priority for me is assisting the planning department with development and implementation of community-based plans and other active projects that are under review as needed. So I'll assist with seeker review or analysis, sometimes just being a second set of eyes, or I'm also helping and being a second set of eyes on the, oh, somebody's alarm is going off.
It's in the back of the building, so.
Yeah, so I'll just keep on going.
Sure.
So that's going to be a fun cadence to try to keep up with. So working on things like the comprehensive plan update, which is underway. We're in document preparation right now, draft document preparation. Right. Oh, all set. Things like local waterfront revitalization program updates, and other projects or planning efforts that involve the town, whether it's the town only or the town is involved in. We have planning efforts that involve interagency with the Arundequoit Bay technical staff, so things like that. Other priority is continue to serve the town or assist the town board in its efforts to implement the Shadow Pines master plan as projects and priorities with that property continue. I'll continue to help the town board however I can, along with the engineering and planning department. I assist the town board and town attorney with local law updates, zoning or town code changes. That's been sort of a steady activity over the last year, and I see that continuing into 2023. We've got some updates to make in the zoning code, and we're also looking at, we've talked in the past about the prospect of short-term rental regulations and other priorities that may come up either to meet changing requirements at the state level or just to address procedural or code changes that the town has been thinking about for a while and just needs to make. So those will continue to be a priority. And then sort of on the list of a few things that we say, the last is to assist the town with the pursuit of grant funding to the extent that I'm able to do that. And so continuing to look at grant opportunities and find ways to capitalize on state and federal funding that may be available.
Now, we have somebody on contract, right, that's going to look at.
So we have, we've been involved, so Barbara Chirdo and myself and have been working with our consultant. They're putting together sort of a package of high priority funding opportunities that the town might be eligible for and also competitive for, because being eligible and being competitive in grant funding opportunities are two different things. So just trying to make sure that we're targeting streams of funding that we have a better chance of potentially receiving. And so I'll continue to work on that.
Good.
No major changes in personnel. I'm a department of one as it stands. But I say that, but I also, organizationally, I'm a department of one, but I think functionally, I'm very integrated with planning and engineering, so I think I'm in that group. There's a lot of back and forth between our departments, and there's a lot of coordination. So I feel like I'm adopted by planning and engineering physically, and then also from functionally as well.
Sure.
And then as far as upcoming training or ongoing activities, I participate in the local chapter or the Genesee Finger Lakes chapter of the American Planning Association. Mm-hmm. So I continue to do that. I actually serve as a board member for that organization, continue with that, and then look for other conferences and opportunities to continue to advance my professional knowledge and professional development. I think when we talk about the connection with other departments, I've already mentioned my work with planning engineering. I also work fairly closely with building and zoning, especially when we have code updates or and interpretations and identifying areas of the town code that may need to be addressed at some point in the future. Mm-hmm. They're obviously a huge source of information for that. I'm also working with folks in that department because we're doing updates in the system that we use for tracking projects and permits called IPS. And so there's a lot of coordination that happens there. And then I work with recreation and communications as needed on projects. Recreation for things like PenFest, which is the Penfield Business Chamber's annual event. Typically happens on Town Hall campus. So there's a little coordination with Andrew there to make sure that we're in the right spot and have all the resources for that event. And then for communications, just about getting information out, whether it's for our specialty districts, like we did for the parade. In advance of the parade, we sent out notices to business owners that were on the parade route so that they would know sort of when they might have some challenges getting in or out of their location. Continue to work on things like that.
Good. Any board, any questions? Or
I don't
think.
No, thank you.
I know you worked.
Great job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for the in the code working. You coordinated everything with the codes that we just
it's been
updated and the fences. I know you really have updated a lot of things that needed.
That's been all the code updates have been. I know I'm the one here in front of the microphone doing the talking about them, but it's always a team effort, and there's multiple staff that are looking at it. Our town attorney is very involved, so I think it's really always a team effort of making sure that there's a thorough analysis of and review of what needs to be changed.
We appreciate that. Thank you, Kerri, for your, appreciate that. Mr. Valentine.
Thank you.
To you.
So I don't know if you want to start with engineering or planning, whichever one you've got on top.
You pick.
Okay.
They're both important.
I've got planning on top. So obviously, we're still working on finalizing our update to the comprehensive plan. So our first item is the implementation of that. That's the document that guides many of the decisions or the future forecast for the town. So on the planning side is implementation of the items within the document, carrying those forward. Next item is looking at or evaluating the mixed-use district. So we're in a moratorium right now. We're looking at doing some updates to that code. That'll be before the board shortly. We've briefed you and had an initial public hearing As of last week, we had a stakeholders meeting, had some additional conversations with the people that are active in the area, property owners, got feedback, both written, verbal. So we're working on those changes and updates, and we'll be back before this board shortly. But one of the major elements we'll look at as we move forward is, how does that measure against, what our anticipation or what we expected to see. So as it starts to be built, the arbors is starting right now. So you can see they're already out working the site. And we'll be working in through this year, putting utilities in, putting in roads, starting to, implement their design for that. So one of the things we'll look at as the year goes on is how is that playing out? Is that meeting what our thoughts and expectations were? Obviously, we'll continue to, revise and update as we go along to make sure it's, it's meeting the town's goals for that development. One of the items that'll be a recommendation coming out of the comprehensive plan is an update to the open space plan. This was something in the early 2000s. This was a Doug Fox item. Looked at a lot of the properties around town, either that were on our list or as well as the public had recommended. We did take that list, worked with the committee. They did scoring of the properties, aesthetic values, historic values, lots of different elements, items, steep slopes, CPODs, within there that made it an asset to consider preserving for the community. The town subsequently did a bond for that. I believe we're almost done paying that off from that time. So we did some acquisition of land. We bought some development rights. Then we got into the 2010-12, we started looking at it again. Then Shadow Pines kind of came on the heels of that. We did a large acquisition, obviously, with Shadow Pines with the committee's support, the community's support for that. So we acquired the 212 acres. We've spoke with this board, at several instances on what we're looking to do with that property for the development of that for recreational opportunities, as well as looking at the Clark House. So now that that's kind of underway, coming out of the comp plan, I think, again, to look at, that open space plan and if there's other areas. We don't have the money is spent, so we don't have a fund of money for that. But if there are, as we talked about, opportunities for grants that we could have other land acquisition, at least we'll have something in hand for that. So we'll start looking at that once again and, just as kind of a refresh to that original document that was done. And
Wasn't it done in like 2010, right?
the original one was done in 2002.
Yeah,
Original,
2001
okay.
was the
2001,
referendum.
2002, and then we did the referendum for that. 2010, we started back up again.
Back up.
Then we got into the comp plan,
Yeah.
then we got into mixed use, then we got into Shadow Pines. So we've kind of gotten, doing a lot of other items with that. So now, that this comp plan is kind of wrapping up. That'll be one of the items we'll look
It's a good
to.
idea, because, so I've been on all of them.
Yes.
And the second one is when I walked around with Mark. Mark was
Yep.
here, remember, we went all around, and we updated the little properties that we didn't get to purchase, we
Right.
wanted to purchase the first time. We read value, and put values on it, what we wanted to get if we could.
Yeah.
And then we tried again. And there's
subsequent to
some
that, we
we've
spent-
never gotten,
we
like
spent the
Jones
remaining-
Conservation
Yeah.
League, it was always up there because it has all that water and, Anyway, but then the third one, that was the last one, that's why I chaired. It wasn't an open space plan, but we looked at all the properties and what possibly based upon open space easements and what was pertinent now, who wants one, who doesn't want it anymore. It was like, we're going through all those too.
Yep, and we still have some termed easements that are sunsetting on those, but yeah, we did an update.
Yeah, you were part of that, too.
We purchased the Filkins property out of that last update.
Right.
So I say we've expended all of, what we had as the bond money is gone.
It's time.
But we can look at it and then see if, there's other properties at least have a priority list. So if and when, money became available or funding, we'd at least have a
Yeah,
list
because
available.
back then we,
ready to
like
go.
Shadow Pines, golf courses weren't part of that, because
No.
we never thought they were going to be sold for open space, so that wasn't a
True.
part, well,
Right.
there's reconsiderations for
Yep.
other golf courses, you could put down there as a potential open space that you
Yeah,
didn't
those are
before.
opportunities to take a look at. So then, moving on down, we always do training for our planning board members. They're required to get 4 hours training per year. We try to incorporate that, into their sessions. So if we've got a quiet night, incorporate a training session or two for them on that. And then also training for staff. We do have a new junior planner that just joined us last week. So he's new to our department, so, get him up and trained.
Is that Matt, the one
it
that
is Matt.
sent out the email?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep. Matt Prinzing.
So you'll have to
Yeah.
stop in and meet him. But, have him, the county does have some good training sessions on seeker, site plan review, some of those other items, open meetings law, so we'll make sure that he's incorporated into those. Given his start, we're not requesting any other personnel. Don't have any additional expenses other than what's listed in our budget. Again, looking for some trainings, so the American Planning Association, any planning conferences or GIS training for Matt and Doug. And then obviously continued trainings for the planning board, and then what would be our new Energy Environmental Conservation Committee, which will be having its first meeting in February. So that'll be a combined effort between what was the EEAC as well as the Conservation Board. So they do have a training fund and budget with them, so keep that group up and informed. And then I just have a listing of the other departments we work with. Obviously, work closely with Developmental Services. We support the DPW, Building and Zoning, obviously working with the Comprehensive Plan, and then many committees, Planning Board, Town Board, and then what was Conservation Board, but now is that EECC committee. Any questions on the planning side of things?
You mentioned GIS. Is that something that's handled in your department? I know there's a lot of maps out there.
Yep.
And specifically the updating and generation of those. Is that being handled by your team then?
Yeah, so Matt came back in to fill that role, so he's doing that along as well as the junior planner role. We do have an outsource company we can use as needed, but Matt seems well versed in it, so he's jumped right in and he's taken off on that. He's updated maps in the past week. We're already looking at our stormwater maps. He's updating our sidewalk and infrastructure, and then gathering the information for the GASB 34 information that the state requires as part of our annual audit. So
That's good. Yeah, those are very helpful from time to time when you're looking for a
so
resource.
he's jumped into that and seems to be doing well, with that. So that's a service we'll continue to provide moving forward.
Great.
Okay.
Good.
So on the engineering side of things, the first item I have is the EPA Phase 2 compliance. As we talk about this quite often, this is a major part of our day-to-day process. So as a designated MS4, so that's a municipal separate storm sewer system. Basically, it's a designation from the DEC that they have, I won't say they haven't asked us, they've basically required us to do and review all site plans, review construction sites, implement the state, the DEC, and the EPA code. So obviously, as we go through site plans, reviewing those along with the planning department, with developmental services, support for this board for new applications, we're looking for green infrastructure, we're looking for compliance with the Blue Book, which requires for erosion control, how do we handle stormwater, how do we handle ponds, so that becomes quite a process with that, and as part of that, we're members of the Monroe County Stormwater Coalition. So that's a coalition that the county put together years ago. If you've seen the H2O Hero billboards, there's a lot of them out there. This year's kind of focuses on plastics, so getting plastics out of our environment. But that helps us maintain one of our 6 minimum measures. So the DEC detailed out 6 minimum measures that we need to comply with. So one of them is public education and outreach. So we work with the coalition to come together as a whole county in order to make sure that we have a cohesive plan, a cohesive message out to the community, and that it's not just coming from us, so we can kind of use our dollars together to do the H2O Hero and reach different parts of the community. We've had billboards at the Red Wings Stadium this past year and had a spot during that. We've got billboards up, we've got door hangers, we've got other stuff for local, we've got the placards and the markers we put on catch basins. So any different means and method we can get out the information to the public about the understanding of the need for stormwater, clean up after your dogs and pets. We've got pet markers in the parks. We've got, a lot of handouts and pamphlets, educating people about, the functionality of ponds and wetlands and, the benefit to the community. So that all falls under that program. A lot of the drainage projects, so we're working on Allen's Creek. We're going to move forward with that this year. We actually just got the permit today.
Oh, good.
So the permit is in-house. We're still working with the neighbors on that, and then we need to do a reach out to those neighbors shortly, communicate to them what the plan is for the project, and then get that out to bid this spring, so that can be a summer 2023 construction. So to go in and do the remediation that's necessary. There's lots of erosion going on down there, undercutting some of the slopes. We've had a hillslide a couple years ago, but then we still have residents that are losing portions of their yards. We've been working closely with the DEC and the Army Corps to come up with this plan to do a natural design to help stabilize that stream so we don't continue to have erosion going on. We continue to work with the DPW on our stream cleaning. So right now we've got a piece going on, and it is up on the website with the DPW doing cleaning between Fallbrook, Treebrook, and then over to Scribner Road. So there's a stream in there. We just completed a portion off of Fellows Road, which is done, as well as they just last year completed a piece in Black Forest. So we try to be on a regular cycle to keep the streams open and flowing. We've seen an extraordinary amount of dead ash trees that are coming down in the windstorms we've had recently, which are falling in the streams, blocking the drainage. So we've kind of been working diligently with the DPW, one, to get permits if we need them. If we're just pulling out debris, the DPW can, pull that out, without a permit, as long as we're not digging in the soil. And then continuing with our pond maintenance and cleaning as required. We have DPW personnel out right now walking all of our ponds, looking at them, and then, as there's days that they're not plowing in the wintertime, they use those days to go out and do pond maintenance, do other things. So if in the wintertime it's not snowing, they're not plowing, our DPW crews are still active cleaning ponds, doing other cleanup, in order to, one, keep them busy, but two, to, continue that benefit to the community. Next item is the floodplain management. So this is a FEMA regulation. So as part of the town, we're required to enforce the FEMA laws, regulations. If we don't, we get into issues with NFIP, which is the National Flood Insurance Program. So if we don't meet the minimum standards, keep those up, the community at whole could lose its flood insurance. So we need to make sure people aren't filling in the floodplain, obtaining the proper permits for it. If they are in the floodplain, floodproofing their buildings, working down in the Panorama Valley, is a big area for that. So in order to make sure that they're in compliance, flood insurance costs are high enough already. So we've been across the nation trying to keep those down and minimize, those impacts. So that's a major element. And then we work back and forth with the building department on issuing building permits and elevation certificates for that.
Good. No,
Question?
that's great. No, I'm
Okay.
glad. No?
Then our annual sidewalk program, as we typically meet in the springtime, with the board to talk about where we're going. That discussion pushed a little bit later this year, but we've, subsequent to last year's conversation, have gotten survey for 5 Mile Line and Shoecraft Road. We have those surveys in-house now and are working on that design in-house as we speak. So we'll look to get those together. We'll meet with the neighbors, walk the paths, make sure they're aware with that, and then be looking to put out a sidewalk bid this spring, and then work with the contractor to implement the sidewalk
Great. That's good.
as this
The
board
neighbors will be
voted on
happy.
last year. So we'll keep moving ahead on those. And then next item is grow our sustainability engineering program. As this board had authorized, was adding a sustainability role. So Sarah in our engineering department has transitioned over into that position. So she's working with the board and will be in actually next week to give an update on the CCA program. So to kind of brief the board where we are on that, how much the residents have saved thus far, how that's going, and given with energy costs where they are today, having locked in at a lower rate, our residents are seeing a savings for that versus the variability rate that the energy costs are currently tracking. She's also looking at climate smart communities. She's looking at clean energy communities. So we'll be back with more updates for the board. But having somebody in that role that can answer those questions about climate smart, CCA, or people have questions about solar, a lot of those other elements. It's good to have somebody in that role, and we continue to see that role expand. As we always look to do a lot of our in-house design, as much cost savings as we can if we can do more of our design in-house through AutoCAD, through our own design. Obviously, it's a savings to the community. We're looking to get out to bid this year the State Road bypass. So this is a piece we've been looking at with the town of Webster. There's a necessary bypass that was agreed upon years ago. They paid for an upgrade on their side of the line to get more capacity for Penfield. We're agreeing to install this bypass that then will allow for more sanitary flow from Penfield on that northern end. We're working with the DPW on was the Harper Park, but now it's Green Court or Penfield Farms that owns it. We have an elevated sewer that was put in the 60s that's up in the air. Want to make sure that that is shored up and make sure that that continues to function for another 60 years and beyond, so that doesn't become an issue. So working with them on that. Also working on the Ready project. So this was a floodplain issue with the high lake levels along the shoreline. We have a pump station down in LaSalle's Landing Park that needs to be raised up to get out of the floodplain elevation. So working with that group to get that raised up. And then working with the Columbus Crossing bathroom facility. Again, we'll have another update next week for the board. Working closely with MRB Group. They've got the design of the building done. We've done the site design on that portion of it, and then coming to the board next week to provide you guys an update on that. Looking to get that out to bid this spring, again, for summer construction of this year. And then again, we continue to support the town board, planning board, work with the transportation committee, watershed, the energy environmental conservation committee, and then would be working with the open space committee. As my time is running short, I'll quickly go through the rest of. I'm not looking to hire anybody. The only person we may look at, and we have in the budget, is an intern. We'll see what our workload looks like and whether that makes sense for us. Not asking for any additional expenses, and we'll work with the board on any additional required training sessions that are needed.
Thank you. Any
Great.
quick questions for Mark? I know kind of time went fast.
That's a lot of good information. Thank you.
Yes, very
job.
good. Thank you. Thank you both.
Yeah, thank you both.
So this concludes our goals and priorities tonight. And if you stay tuned in a couple minutes, we'll be coming up into our legislative meeting. Thank you.